Hey Heathens, when you think of a cult, what do you think of? Probably the long white robes, matching haircuts, living off the grid in a commune, but a lot of cults fly under the radar because of how nondescript and innocent looking they are on the surface, and that's exactly the case with what we're going to talk about today with my guest, Jess. Jess grew up in the Pentecostal Holiness. She's going to share a lot of information with us that most people don't have visibility to, much less speak out about.
And we're off.
Like a herd of turtles.
Like a herd of turtles.
So, Jess, when I think about Pentecostal, the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is all of the crazy things. Speaking in tongues, the aisle running, the snake handling, all of that. I only visited a Pentecostal church one time, so am I pretty off base?
The snake handling? I think you're thinking of like voodoo or something, but...
Harry Potter, Slytherins.
That's what it is. They speak parcel tongue. That's
where it came from.
No one talks about Pentecostal holiness. They're talking about all the others, and Pentecostal holiness is just sitting there, just floating under the radar. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
That's not going to work for us.
No. Oh, nay. But no, yes, running the aisles, speaking in tongues, baptized in Jesus' name, not Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It is baptized in Jesus' name. Yes, speaking in tongues, running the aisles, slaying in the spirit, all that hellfire, brimstone, everything.
So how did you get involved in all of this in the first place? Did you grow up in it, or how did you get thrust into being slain in the spirit?
I love how you say thrust. So yeah, it was, we won't say the year. We'll just keep that out of there. It was a long time ago. I was 7 years old, and my mother was brought to the church by her ex-boyfriend, and their parents are the ones that got her converted. And was there for a really long time. Too long.
So you were 7 when your mom's ex-boyfriend was like, hey babe, let's go to church. And then he kind of dipped after that, but y'all stayed in the Pentecostal church. Do you remember life prior to being Pentecostal, or do you have memories?
I do. I actually have memories before that, and they're pretty great.
When you started being more involved in the Pentecostal world, did you think for a minute, like, something is off about this, something's weird about this, or did you just kind of did what you were told?
I mean, I was raised in the South, so it was pretty much you did what you were told. And I mean, it was odd, it was weird, but it also had this sense of oddness and community that I didn't know it was community at that time, but it gave me new friends, and I learned that I can learn how to play an instrument, and I started a year after that, 8 years old, I started playing piano, and I loved the music. I just was enraptured by it, for lack of a better word. And I had a childlike innocence that I cherish, that I had at least some of those good memories at the very beginning, until you start getting a little bit older and the brain starts to develop just a little bit more.
Ugh. And then you realize how messed up it really is.
Yeah, so it lasted all of like 2 years. I had like 2 years, and I was like, yeah, and then it was going, whoa, wait, hold on.
I think that's one of the things, that's how they get you. That's how they get you in cults and high control groups like that, is because on the surface level, it is very wholesome. It's very much community oriented. It's, singing hymns and playing instruments and having like-minded friends and people that you think you can trust. So it doesn't register for a long time, especially for kids, but even for a lot of the adults, it doesn't register for a long time until they're so far in it that they can't see a way out, that it's actually very unhealthy, the things that are happening under the surface.
Yeah, you kind of nail it on that. It's a lot of fear-mongering. That's basically what it is. It's fear-mongering. It's totalitarianism. It's, you know, it's their way or you're in hell. They're like, they say that only Jesus can judge you, and yet they're judging you pretty hardcore. And I'm just kind of like, wait, the math ain't mathing. It just isn't.
Like, did I miss the part where you're Jesus up there? No, you're not? Oh, but okay, so you can't judge me.
Oh, no. But here's the thing. They are Jesus's conduit. They are called by him to tell you. And then they just go into all your sins.
I love how their personal biases, because this happened in my experience as well, people's personal biases somehow are translated into God is telling me to tell you this, or God is speaking through me to you, but it's actually just a human opinion of judgment.
Just
not the Lord.
Say that you have a thought that you'd like to share with me from your own mind, because the other thing is that I actually said to the pastor's wife one time, and I don't think I've ever told anyone this. I'm going to tell you.
Tell me.
I told so the pastor's wife comes up to me, and she said one time to me, she goes, it was something along the line of, the Lord wanted me to tell you that you have a spirit of rebellion in you, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, why didn't he tell me himself? Wasn't the veil rent when he died? I had hands on my head like this, like praying away this spirit of rebellion.
I was about to say, they were convinced you were demon-possessed after that one.
See, that's the thing. And that's what's really disturbing, is that you have a child that is young, that is not emotionally mature, that is learning how to be an adult. Okay, this is me speaking from personal experience, as well as witnessing it throughout all of my contemporaries and people older and younger. You were shunned because instead of going, you know what, this is a kid, they're trying to learn how to be a human, they don't have the emotional intelligence. I'm here as an adult to say, all right, look, hey, I get what you're saying, but that's no way to approach this situation.
Right.
Instead of talking, it was react. If their authority, and this is across the entire organization, if the authority of the man of God is attacked or questioned in any way, shape, or form, you are questioning Jesus himself. And that is a spirit of defiance, of rebellion. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. I swear, like, you could have called me Legion for as many times as they said that I had a demon in me. And I even had the spirit of popularity called out against me. And I was so thoroughly confused, Kendra.
What is that? Please explain.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Does that literally translate to you're too popular?
I guess so. I was hanging out with the popular kids at middle school, the cheerleaders, to the football players, to the track team, to the weirdos, to the castaways. I was friends with everyone. And I thought that's what we were supposed to be. But because I don't know if it was some of the girls that just thought that it was wrong that I was hanging out with cheerleaders and French braiding their hair for them so that they can go cheer, then that was a problem. I never understood. And I still don't understand. And you know what? Frankly, I'm glad I don't understand.
Preach on that. I think really what it was is maybe perhaps they had the spirit of jealousy.
Oh.
That's just... As someone sitting here judging, since we're judging, I have the spirit of judgment. No.
Are we judging, or are we the jury that collected all the evidence and now we're just laying it out there?
Now we're just observing facts.
Observing facts. Yes.
Seems like the spirit of this and that. Is that just like a common part of the language within the Pentecostal church? Because I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so it is a common language, and it is very hurtful. it is weaponized against you. And it makes you fearful in the wrong way of having any sort of relationship with Jesus. And I'm pretty sure everyone has noticed that I keep saying Jesus and not God or the Lord or anything like that. And it's because it is holiness oneness. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost are not three separate, they're all in one. And that one is Jesus. And it is, because, when people say, God the Father and Jesus is the Son and the Holy Ghost and all of this, and I remember going through Sunday school and I never understood it. I never understood the separation or the oneness of it. I never understood it. One thing I do want everyone to understand is that I am not calling out the good ones, because there were some that had some fundamentally beautiful, morals about themselves. Mm-hmm. There was this preacher that would come around, and he was an evangelist, and he was so kind. I loved him. He and his wife took a liking to me, and his daughter and his youngest son and I were super close. And he was deemed too radical. Oh. And they blackballed him away. And the thing is, he was a prophet. So he would come and teach, healing and call people out and be like, hey, you're dealing with this, you have this, and blah, blah, blah. And I actually do believe he had a gift, because a lot of some of the things that he would say, there was absolutely no way that he would have ever known. So I do believe he had some sort of gift. Whether it was Jesus himself talking to him, I have no idea. That's not for me to say. That's for him. He's long since passed. However, there was one night that he showed up and at this church that had him there. So there was a ton of people that were there. And he started preaching a sermon, which he hadn't done in over 20 some odd years. Hmm. And it was directed at the leadership that was there, talking about how God was upset. God said they needed to get it together type situation. Mm-hmm. That preacher was never asked to come back.
Oh, accountability doesn't feel so good, does it?
It doesn't feel good at all. Yeah.
Oh, man. I like that you point out the good people that are in there, because that's important. And that's again what makes it hard to leave a lot of times, is when you're surrounded by so much that is wrong and that feels heavy and feels judgmental is such a light word to sum up, the treatment in that environment. But there are some good people in there, and it hurt when you leave. You also mourn and you hurt for leaving those good people behind 100%. In some weird way. Have you been able to maintain connections with anybody since you left, like some of the good ones?
One, and I've known her since she was 2, and she's like a little sister. And I protect her. She's right here. Aww. I protect her a lot. And then my cousin, Jamie.
What's up, Jamie?
Jamie is my, she and I have this, we've always had it ever since we were super little. Our dads were brothers, and, she is soulmate, love Aww. Her so much. And yeah, she's always been very encouraging, and, we've been each other's basically support blanket throughout all these years. And she's where I was probably 10 years ago. So she's working through everything as well. And she's, making her way through her own healing. And mm-hmm. I do this for her, and I do this for my friend, because it's something that we found to be so important of the work that you're doing. And there's so much to say. There's so much to delve into that they can't go under the radar for that much longer. They really can't fly under this. With what's happening right now with a lot of people, like all of these documentaries that are coming out, and people like you who are saying, you know what, enough, let's go. It's time to go. I think that's where we are right now. And I think it is so important, though, that we do it with care and with integrity. While we joke and we laugh and we play, and, you know, it's part of the dark humor that we have just to survive and just 100%. To get through that trauma. This is very serious. These are people's lives, and they're caught up in this oppression, especially the oppression of women. I couldn't cut my hair. I couldn't wear makeup. I had to wear my skirt to the floor. This right here, this is probably cutting it a little close. Long sleeves.
I can almost see your clavicle. It's suggestive, if I'm being honest. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. No. Right.
But that's how. Yes, it's like you have to have layers up to here, and yes,
got to be up to there. And if you look in any way that will make a man sin, that is on you. That is not on that man. Mm-hmm. That is on you. And if you were married to someone and you wore something that was not too revealing, and you got abused for it, was it abuse or was it discipline?
Weren't you asking for it? Wasn't that God?
God punishing you. And that's the thing, is that why are you preaching about someone who is supposed to be your refuge and strength, and yet they just discipline you all the time?
Yeah. And you and I discussed it a couple days ago, but Jesus, since we're talking Jesus, mm-hmm. he hung out with the destitute, with the prostitutes, with the lowest of the low by society's standards. That's what he would do if he were here. He wouldn't be here judging for, your top being an inch below your Adam's apple.
Right.
Or Eve's apple, as we caused.
No, don't say it. Thank you for doing it for me. Yeah, that's the thing we were talking about, is shout out to good old Jelly Roll, man. He just is saying, he hung around with 12 thugs. Literally 12 thugs. I mean, there was a tax collector in there. There was a doctor, fisherman. There were some robbers. Can we
appreciate how tax collectors are in the same category as robbers? Shout out to you, federal government.
Shout out.
But I digress.
But yeah, it is he stood in the town with a prostitute, shielded her. He who is without sin cast the first stone. He protected her life. He protected this woman. He protected people who were marginalized. By the way, I don't know if anybody knows this, but there were no white people in the Bible. Just going to throw that out there.
Can you say that louder for the people in the back?
There were no white people in the Bible. They were all Middle Eastern. They were brown. So stop making Jesus out to be this white Anglophile type dude when he was this Middle Eastern brown guy trying to do some great work and make people feel good about themselves and be happy and have something to live for.
A few minutes ago, you said there's so much like in the Pentecostal space that just can't remain silent anymore. It can't keep being swept under the rug. They can't just keep floating out here and getting away with this. What do you think is the most important message that you would like to convey as far as what is happening in this space? Because I've not lived it. I've not heard a whole lot of people talk about the Pentecostal religious communities. So what do we need to know about it?
So women are subservient to men. Like I said a while ago, if a man sins, it's her fault. Dressing is the biggest. A natural body shape is not okay because it tempts a man. Women aren't brought into conversations. It's going to be your husband or your father. And if you're a child with no father, well, you get put on the back burner to either wait for a husband or see when you could be a target. this is the big one. When it comes to a woman's bad behavior, you were demon-possessed, and you had the spirit of lust and the spirit of Jezebel.
Comparing, did the men ever have a spirit of douchebaggery or something in contrast to women having the lust and the Jezebel? Was there a male version of that?
The guys who were a little effeminate,
Ooh.
and they were always called on the carpet for spirit of homosexuality.
What do you mean called on the carpet? I have to stop you there. What does that mean?
Oh, okay. So being called on the carpet, meaning that usually whenever, when Jesus speaks to the pastor and says that somewhat so-and-so has the spirit of homosexuality, so instead of Jesus just like casting it out, he goes straight to the preacher so the preacher can tell them that. And then they will call it out over the pulpit.
Oh, no.
And embarrass the kid. And they will have these ushers and these men on the board or whatever will come up and take this person and bring them to the altar and pray over them.
Oh, my God.
And they're like, you need to pray through, which means you need to pray through it. You need to get rid of it. And usually it'll break these people so much to where they're vomiting. And it's almost kind of like they're doing like an exorcism type situation, but they don't call it that. They call it casting out spirits. And I remember there was a whole season of that happening. And I'm like, I want to leave. Like, it's terrifying because people are bent over and they're humiliated and they're weeping and they think, oh, well, maybe I do. Maybe this is bad. Maybe I am bad. And it's terrifying and it's not okay. And you're not allowed to talk about it. And that's the thing is, my biggest question is, when you go to all of these, because I used to travel around and I've seen them all. And when you go to these conferences and these other churches and they do all of this, my biggest thing is, why are you telling people not to talk about it if it's not good? I would love for someone to answer that question. I want to just preface this. If anybody has a trigger for any type of essay, child abuse or anything like that, I'm really sorry, and it's your way, like, click away now, because this is something that it's really hard that this is like a really huge thing that happens within this organization. Not just within the spot that I was raised, but within other churches in the surrounding area, any places that I went to. And it all came back to, what did you do though? And it being swept under the rug and you being labeled as, Jezebel or Delilah or any Mary Magdalene, any of these women who tempted a man or prostitute or did anything to adorn themselves. You were compared to these people that they deemed to be awful. Mm-hmm. And knowing that I was a child, these were grown-ass teenagers that were hurting children. Okay, we're prepubescent, we're 13, so guess what? We're blossoming at that time. I had curves on me like a 30-year-old when I was a teenager, and that was my fault. We were all children, 12, 13, budding young girls. These were teenagers that were 17, 18, 19 years old, raging hormones, and essaying, and, all of us, and we had to keep our mouths shut because their dads were bigwigs in the church.
For outsiders, it's hard to imagine how these things were happening or how women are telling the truth. That's how people justify it a lot of times. Well, that can't be true because there was always people around. There would have been no time for something like that. But unfortunately, perpetrators and abusers always make time. They find ways.
Everyone needs to remember that these are churches, okay? So there are stairwells, there are empty rooms, there are many closets, there are places out back, there are other buildings on the property. So there are different campuses, there are different places where people can go and hide away and be like, oh, no, it's going to be okay. It's okay. Come with me. It's okay. And being young and impressionable, it becomes one of those, okay, if I don't go, then they're going to think that, I don't like them or whatever. But I'm not at the age of consent. Right. Although in this organization, they encourage underage marriage, and not necessarily marriage. Well, as soon as you turn 18, they're like, you getting married? Or right when you're out of high school, but it's sick. It's just sick. Yeah. And then if you try and say something, or if they brag and it gets out, you're the one that gets in trouble because your skirt was a little too tight, or you're a little too curvy, or you're slit in your skirt. You know what? Sew it all the way up. Mm-hmm. So you gotta walk like this.
Yep. I know that walk. You mentioned earlier, as young girls and women, what the man says goes. So even when they're older teenage boys, what they say goes. Like, you're just taught that from a young age. Like, why are you questioning an older boy? There's all of the hierarchy of the social aspect of it. Like, oh, I want him to like me, or, I don't want to appear this way or that way. But then there's the church hierarchy of it all of, oh, well, I'm as a girl, I'm supposed to listen to the man and follow his lead. Like, they're the leaders. We're supposed to follow. And so that just seems like the natural course of action. But then when bad things happen, like they unfortunately happen to you, then it somehow gets shifted back on you as the young, 14-year-old girl or younger, that it's somehow your fault. Something you did from your spirit of Jezebel or lust made this happen to you. Exactly. Which makes girls not report it, because why are they going to report it when they get blamed?
Exactly. I mean, only person that knows everything that has happened to me in my life on an intimate level is my therapist. And it took me until I was in my mid-30s. So that was probably like 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, where I finally had the courage to talk to someone and to get help. And that's the other part of it, is therapy is very discouraged. You talk to the pastor, and if you talk to a minister, and what if that leader is part of the problem? What if that leader is the oxygen to that fire that is tormenting you? And like I said, there are some pastors within an organization that would give their right arm to take hurt away from somebody. They would do anything that they could to make sure they weren't hurt. Then you have some who have the charisma. They have the gift. The gift of gaslight. That is the thing.
I'm sorry, it's too good. It's too good. The word alliteration, the gift of gaslight. It's so spot on, unfortunately.
It is. It's unfortunate, and and it's a lot of. There were so many other expectations that were, and I think this is going to blow your mind. I don't know if this was done on the Baptist side or any other denomination side, but we had to hand in prayer cards. So what this meant is that every week you have to put on a prayer card every single day how long you prayed, and then how many chapters of your Bible that you read. When you were under the age of 13 and under, it was 30 minutes a day you had to pray. Can you imagine? 13-year-old kid?
No, I'm 35. I can't even pay attention to anything for 30 minutes without moving.
No. So we had to write that down. And then we had to read at least, like, I think it was like 2 chapters or something. Or if it was a short one, we had to like do enough to where it was like a certain amount of time of reading your Bible. And we had to turn that in. Or you couldn't be on the platform. Like, you couldn't sing. And that's
Did you ever lie?
Oh.
Because who?
100%.
That's so much.
100%. Oh, my goodness. I 100% lied. I mean, say it right here.
I mean, I would have.
Oh, 100%. And because the thing is, but here's the
Who's
part.
going to verify it? That's on them.
Well, here's the part when it becomes verifiable.
Oh, no.
Is when you actually do read it, and then it becomes counterintuitive. Because then you go, oh, he told this story, and I'm actually reading what the passage was he did the other day, and it was about this. But then you read the context before and the context after, and you go,
yep,
that's not what that meant. Let me ask him. So you write it down, and you go, hey, you said, okay, so you read this on Sunday, and it was about X, Y, and Z. But if you keep going, and plus, and if you start maybe at the end of the last chapter, and you walk your way through, that's not what was said.
Right.
Can you explain to me how we got there? Because maybe I'm just not understanding something. You are rebellious. You are rebuked. You are, and it becomes a threat to their authority. And it's disgusting.
I purposely try not to get into any religious debates anymore. It's just, you're not going to change anyone's mind, and it's not my goal to change anyone's mind at this point in my life. I'm just information sharing. But back when I would have debates, so many people, like, they're Christians, their number one thing would be like, well, you just need to read the Bible. You just need to get in the Bible. And I'm like, that's how I got to this conclusion, is I did read the Bible front to back multiple times. I still to this day have massive portions of it in my brain memorized because of how much I read it and how much I was, made to memorize. I'm glad that you pointed that out, because a lot of times that is what raises questions. It's just the reading of what we're told to read, but then any question of that or just clarification from a non-rebellious standpoint is met with resistance, because you're questioning authority, which is questioning God, even though it's up to interpretation.
Exactly. And that's the other part is, I mean, and the thing is that it's already been disproven. Like the King James Version, which is what I grew up on, and anything else was abominable. And it's already been proven so many times that it was actually interpreted incorrectly, that it's not even actually the truth. And that's the thing is that you're holding on to something so hard because it fits your narrative and what you want to say. We would go to church on Sunday when there were no visitors there. They weren't allowed to go. And this was the time where people would be getting called out. So there are several things that would happen in these meetings. And you weren't allowed to talk about them afterwards, which we all did.
The tea must be spilled.
It must be sipped because it's been steeped.
Please, sir, may I have another?
Sometimes there was this one friend who got called out, and she was just like, yeah, and didn't care anymore.
I respect it.
Was like, yeah, mad respect for her. I still like,
Hats off to you.
to you for just like, all right, whatever.
So it was just like a group chastisement and judgment for drama purposes, or what?
It's the entire
shame purposes.
It was shame. It was for shame. It was for gaslighting. It was for showing dominance over someone and dominion over someone. And they would call out girls and women why they are doing so terribly. You girls your skirts are getting too short. You girls' sleeves are, they must be below the elbow. Can't see a collarbone. Your hair is being done too worldly. That was another thing, is they would say worldly. Mm-hmm. We are in this world. We are not of this world.
What constitutes quote unquote worldly hair as a Pentecostal? Because I think, at least in my brain, Pentecostal women have a very specific look and a very specific style to their hair. But I haven't seen, as an outsider, a lot of variation in what that looks like. So what would be worldly?
So back when I was younger, the grunge days, there was a lot of, you would see the girls that would actually grow their hair long, and they would wear it split down the middle. And God forbid that your hair looked anything like Alanis Morissette. So say I would braid all of my hair and I would have it split down the middle so that I can have kind of like that Alanis jagged little pill look. Yeah, just no, we're not doing that. There was a time where I remember they would be like, put your hair up, move it away or whatever, because it was done to, what's that? The finesse commercials that used to happen back in the day, with the big hair. I'm talking the poofs were like this. It was nuts, it was Aquanet, rave hairspray, rave number 4 and rave number 3. If you weren't that brave.
Is that the purple can?
The purple can is number 4. The pink is the 3. 2 is green. 1, I think, was, somebody's going to correct me, but I think 1 was yellow. I don't remember that one, but we didn't go that low.
Is this a sponsored ad? I'm impressed with your knowledge.
I have inhaled so much rave hairspray. All jokes aside, it was, let me pick at whatever I can. And mind you, some of these girls were going through it, because some of this is retaliation. Some of this is showing that, hey, I'm still bigger than you. You still have to do what I say. It was power play. And don't you dare talk about it. Remember.
Right, it's a tactic to get them back in line. Any shred of individuality means that there's a chance they might speak up or leave or tell someone. They have to squash that before it becomes something they can't control.
Exactly. And, the churches that I would visit growing up, sometimes I would be there and I'm eyeballing where the exits are and how I could leave without anyone noticing. But then remembering, we drove 2.5 hours here in a bus, and I can't get out of here. And I can't fake that I have to go to the bathroom because you're not allowed to leave. And it was, you walk in and you feel the heaviness of it being there, and you're forced to be in this situation. And not all of them were like that. Some of them you would go to and it was, hey, how are you? Welcome. We're so happy to have you. But then some places you would go and you can feel the eyeballs and you're like, God, they say to watch out for me because they knew about what happened to me. You feel like a raw nerve and no one's there to protect you.
Feeling of being trapped. It's just like you feel claustrophobic and there's nowhere to run to. Like you said, there's nowhere to escape to. What are you going to escape to? And if you do escape, the punishment for leaving the room even is going to be worse than if you just stayed.
It truly, truly is. That's the reason why when people leave, they're like, they go to find comfort where they can. They want compassion. Someone to just listen to them.
They want compassion and community.
Yeah, that's all churches were meant to be, is a place of gathering and community of like-minded people. And not oppression. That is the biggest thing, is that it's oppression. And if you don't do it, they mark you. Mm-hmm. And it really just turns your life away from people that you're connected with and that you have deep relationships with and have been in this together. And it's very upsetting and alarming that they would do this to people. I'll never understand it. And
it disconnects you from yourself. It disconnects you from other people, but then it also severs any trust that you have or relationship you have with yourself. You just learn to not trust yourself, to not lean on your own intuition or your gut feelings or red flags that you think that you're seeing. Then all of the gaslighting that they're doing to you, you end up internalizing and gaslighting yourself.
Yes. Yes, you gaslight yourself.
Maybe I'm blowing that out of proportion. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm being dramatic.
I'm hysterical because I'm possessed.
That's always it. We're always hysterical and hormonal.
This is the only thing that I can think of, and I don't know how this is going to read, but it reminded me of the Salem witch trials, of how they thought that these women were witches, which probably some of them were. We don't know. We weren't there. But basically what it was is the hysteria that was happening was hormonal changes, and, you know, having, some of them had bipolar, and, you know, just not knowing how to regulate themselves. And they got burned at the stake for it. And it's kind of like what even modern times of today, except we're not physically being hung and burned at the stake, but they're burning us within society. They're marking us within in our community that we grew together. And that's what they're doing. And that is shameful on a humanitarian level of people who are supposed to be humanitarians.
So when did you leave? I know you started seeing some red flags early on. Like you said, you, like maybe 2 years of innocence before you started noticing things.
Yeah.
So what led to the actual departure from the church?
So I graduated high school, and I started getting to where I was at that age of where I can kind of speak for myself and gain some independence. But that's like, I'm using the word independence very loosely. My mother was very ill, and we couldn't figure out why. So she wasn't going to church a lot, and I was really already kind of pulling away from it anyway, because I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is garbage. I can't do this. I probably have been agnostic since I was a young teenager when I found out what agnosticism was. And I would go to the church only and do the motions and, you know, sing and play because the music was great.
Survival.
Yeah. And so what happened is that the pastor came over to our home. And at the time, we had gotten a DirecTV dish. And because my mother was at a television, Heathens. And he came in with his wife, and they sat down in the living room. And I could feel something was a setup. Like, I could feel a setup. And I walk around and I go into the kitchen, and I'm washing dishes. I'm like almost breaking plates. I'm washing them so hard. And he wisecracked something of saying, I'm only coming here one time. If you don't pray through, just went on, and I kind of blocked it out. So then he gets up.
Was he speaking to you or to your mother?
Your mother. Because I've been going, because I played with the church. So he comes over to me. He leaned over and he got really closely like this, and he said, you need to pray through as well, because if you're being with that, you're not going to get anywhere.
Your mother is the that in this situation? Your sick mother?
Yeah, come to find out, she was having an allergic reaction of a brand new medication, and thankfully her friend worked at the University of Maryland and figured it out. And it cured her when she stopped taking it. So there you go. anyway, instead of having compassion,
the prayers worked.
The prayers worked. So anyway, he goes to leave, and I looked at her, and I said it so loudly, because I was raised at a trailer, so paper thin walls. And I said, I will never darken the doors of that place ever again. She's like, he hear you? I said, I hope they hear me. And then I heard the door shut outside. Never saw him again.
Bye-bye. Good riddance. You never went back after that?
No, I never went back after that.
I love that. I mean, that took some...
It was petrifying.
Cojones.
It really, honestly, it truly did. It took a lot of... and I'm not trying to diminish it in any way of what I went through, but it took a lot of me just being like... It gave me permission. He gave me permission at that moment. Mm. And I was like, okay. Okay.
Yeah. You saw an opportunity and you took it.
I took it and I bounced. And there were people calling me like, hey, where you been? What's going on? And I'm like, why don't you ask pastor? And then you would see people in the grocery store or whatever, and they would just run the other way. And then you would go around the corner and you would hear them talking about you. And it's just like, hey, I'm right here if you want to say something, you know? And it was...
They don't.
They don't. They don't want to say it to you. They want to say it about you. And that's where it is on that. But honestly, it built me for what I am today. And I like who I am today. I think that I've done really well for myself. I live in the best city in the world. I have a great career my career that I had for a while was so rewarding and it was fun. Wrecks my body. And so I had to change careers. But in this career that I'm in right now, I'm flourishing and I'm learning what it means to be gentle with yourself and to understand that sometimes the comfort that you need is the person that you needed when you were a kid. And sometimes it's you that's going to heal yourself because you have the power to say, hey, look, what we went through, that wasn't okay. What we're doing now is we are healing ourselves. And right now, I'm on the teenage part of healing myself, and she is mad. And I'm letting her because I need to go through the storm and not go around it because that storm's going to shift. I grew up in Louisiana. Hurricanes have a big cone of error, margin of error on purpose because you don't know what's going to happen. And going through this and talking about this and not letting the Holiness Apostolic Church skirt under what, people are now exposing these days. There's so much to say, and I'm not at that level yet to say everything, but this is a start. And I think that it's so incredibly brave and wonderful of you helping out with this healing because I deserve it for myself and everybody else deserves it as well.
I think you're incredibly brave. And I absolutely love what you just said, especially the part about this is your inner teenager coming out and she's angry. Because that's one thing I learned in therapy too, is a lot of times my therapist will be like, okay, well, what part of Kendra do you think is feeling this way or going through this right now? What part of you? And a lot of times I'm noticing it is the teenager part of me because there's all of this want and craving for autonomy and choice and to be heard and to be able to use your voice and find what your voice even is. Yeah. But that was for us and for a lot of people, that was silenced and hushed and diminished for so long that now not only do we find that part of ourselves, but we are absolutely valid in our anger. You're valid in your anger about all of this. And I never want to get to the point, honestly, where I don't have some sense of anger about injustice that happens to innocent people like we were.
And that's the thing is that's what I turned it into. I think what kind of stemmed and started it was about 10, 11 years ago when I decided that I was going to start being an activist. I marched in with Planned Parenthood on Capitol Hill, and was literally like, here's the rope, and about 3.5 feet in front of me was the doors to Congress in Albany. And I have chills.
No, look, I was about to show you. I don't know if you can see this, but I have like chills, goosebumps.
Talking to our representative and our congresswoman, and watching her walk in and vote for the Women's Equality Act, and watching that vote pass was something that was so incredibly empowering. Working with activists and the Women's March, I was there. It was the most powerful thing that I've ever been a part of. I worked with feminist heroes within my work that I used to do. I used to be makeup artist and hairstylist in the entertainment world. And, getting to meet my hero, like Gloria Steinem. I got to work on her television show, and it's
amazing.
It was incredible. And being like, because of what I went through, and because of what happened to me, it gave me a foundation of resilience, and it gave me a foundation of purpose, of being someone that I didn't want to just exist. I wanted to live. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is now I'm living. I'm meeting great people. I'm talking to great people, and I'm able to do what I want to do.
You're thriving, girl.
Yeah.
And like you said, you're being the type of person that you needed when you were younger. And that's my whole goal with this too, is if someone had just listened, if someone had just heard and listened and believed me. And that's kind of a common thing I hear from most people that I talk to on here is no one believed me, or no one would listen to me, or I was just silenced all the time. And one of the worst feelings in the world, and I've said this for years, is to feel invisible, especially when I was younger. I think I'm extra sensitive to it now. So to be able to, like you're doing right now, is advocating for women, for all of our voices, and the experiences that you've had, that's impressive and exciting and inspirational. I'm super freaking proud of you.
Thanks,
man. Amazing.
We all have and I hate that it's the Christian world that has the hold on this, but they've got something with it. There is a calling for everyone's soul, I think, and you have to go with where your soul is called. So I have this thing where I tell people, yes, I was born and raised in Louisiana. However, my soul was born in New York City. And where my soul was born gives me the opportunity to do what I want to do, to have a big voice, and to be able to be that voice for the people who needed someone like me, someone like you. We know everyone needs a Kendra. Everyone needs a Jess. Everyone needs someone that sees that person and say, hey, look, I've been there before. I didn't go through everything that you did. You didn't go through everything that I did. But guess what? I can empathize with you, and I can help you out. I can work on it with you.
That's right. And it does get better.
It does get, oh, guys, it gets better. It gets so much better. Mind you, this is not the first podcast that has ever asked me to be on it before to talk about this. And the reason why I did not jump on it immediately is because when I would see them, it seemed too sensationalized. But coming to talk to you, it's like two kids that grew up while it was different denominations. It's so closely paralleled, and we're both equally, some people would say, messed up.
I'll own it. I'm a little messed up.
I like that. And I think that being a highly sensitive person, because that's what it turned you into, is a very highly sensitive person. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to be okay with it. I'm starting to be okay with, it's my superpower. I'm not whining.
Oh my gosh, we're allowed to have feelings, and
Stuff.
it's not just bitching or whining or being ungrateful.
Oh,
What
that word is so triggering. Ungrateful. Because here's the thing. One thing we all have to remember is no one is entitled to you. No one is entitled to your thoughts. No one is entitled to your opinions. No one is entitled to your feelings. Those all belong to you. It just grinds my gears whenever because like they say, oh, just keep quiet, protect the peace. Whose peace am I protecting? Mine or theirs? Because I'm retching.
Choosing to protect the peace at the cost of your own inner turmoil, it's not actually protecting your peace at all. It's just silencing yourself, which is a disservice and dishonoring yourself as a human being for the sake of, quote unquote, keeping the peace. And we're not doing that at this point in our lives.
And that's the thing, is you said disservice. It's a disservice for you to be unkind to yourself. It's a disservice to not be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. It's okay.
People are listening and they say, okay, what does being gentle with myself mean? Can you give them some examples of how do you be gentle with yourself at this point in your life?
Absolutely. Okay. Struggling with it right now. Imposter syndrome. Finding that I don't deserve the good things that are coming towards me. But why don't I deserve that? Didn't I work for that?
Right.
Didn't I put in the time, the effort? Is there someone that's more deserving than I for that? No, I did that.
Right.
So guess what? I deserve the reward for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of being gentle with yourself. Or one that everyone who is a highly sensitive person, ex-church kid, can say is when you're sitting on the couch and you could be doing laundry, but you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, I'm so lazy.
Me. Oh my God.
So lazy. Because, I feel so lazy, but I'm so tired. I'm so lazy. No, listen to your body. Your body needs to sit. Your body needs to nap. Guess what? Do it. Recharge yourself. Find a way to recharge yourself. The clothes will get cleaned. Maybe not right now, but they will get cleaned. It's going to be okay. It's not laziness. It is self-care.
If you must be productive, just think about rest. Rest is productive. At least that's one of my previous therapists told me that. I'm still working on that.
100%. And the thing is, here's the other part about being gentle with yourself. When you burn out, it is not about us just resting or taking time away. It's about changing those patterns. Because we as people who take on a lot and have a lot of empathy and feel everything, because that's what we were taught to feel, was to how to discern and to feel everything that was happening, basically learning how to read a room, but taking on all of that as our own and bearing that burden on ourselves. That's a lot of things that they would say is, I have a burden about this. I have a burden about this. And so that's what we were taught to do, or to have those burdens. So we still do it out of reflex because that's all we ever know. And it takes a while to get through it. And get a therapist. Therapy is lovely.
Do you understand therapy is not accessible or affordable for everybody? So that part can be a huge challenge. But one of my missions is to be able to provide resources for people, not to take the place of therapy, but to kind of, bridge the gap in between where you're at now and alleviating some of that until you can get to a professional and, a therapist.
Everybody that can't afford therapy, there are ways to get therapy if you can't afford it and have it accessible to you. There are organizations out there that have, I know RAINN does it, RAINN. They have ways of where if you can't afford it, they have a sliding scale. I thankfully went to a place called Safe Horizon in Brooklyn, New York. Years ago, that's where I started out my healing journey. I went there on a sliding scale. I was an artist, not making much money, and I was able to go And those organizations, if they can't help you, they could help find a place for you. So that's the thing, is I don't want people to be like, I don't have access to it. With this day and age, with telehealth, yes, it can happen.
We'll link some of those resources in the show notes for sure.
Also, remember that church-appointed therapists do not have to abide by HIPAA because they are not licensed.
That's correct. And they don't have to report SA or CA to the authorities because they're protected. Almost all the states still have the clergy pendant privilege law. That's a soapbox I will always get on. 2 questions I have for you before we wrap up. One is, I want to know, what is either the best thing or your favorite thing that you've learned about yourself since leaving?
I am capable in spite of what they did. I have a drive to advocate in spite of what they did. And I love that now I bear no shame or blame for anything that they did.
You're a bad bitch.
I'm a bad bitch. It takes a while to get there. It really does. But
yeah,
you have to surround yourself with people. And here's one thing that I want everybody to understand. You have to surround yourself with people that will support you, especially whenever you are speaking out or if you're wanting to change. And guess what? If you get faulted for that, or people that don't support you in that, you're not around the correct people. Let them go. I promise you, letting people go, that even if you love them so much, letting them go is part of that healing. It is part of that growth. Just release them, release them, release them. Because if you've got so much clutter in your life when it comes to people around you, that leaves no room for the ones that'll be like, hey, can I link arms with you? I'll help you through it. You want someone to link arms with you and just walk with you. Be like, hey, I'll carry some of that with you because I have the strength to.
That's right. And people are out here that love you and will want to support you and stand beside you without you having to alter anything about the human you are. Not that you can't better yourself, but at the core of who you are, there's people that accept you and love you 100% for that with no judgment. Yeah. And that was a realization that hit me pretty hard. And it still hits me hard sometimes when people care for me.
Yeah.
With no ulterior motive. It's really mind-blowing sometimes. Last question I have is, how can people support you where you're at now?
Support me by supporting yourself. To be quite honest, that is to me the biggest contribution anyone can give to anybody, is the permission to say, okay, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to start working on this. I'm going to look at the resources that I have, and I'm going to start taking up for myself. Because the thing is, we have to take up for ourselves first before someone else can. We have to, and that is first by acknowledging and getting on board with the fact that I was hurt, I was wronged, I was shamed, I was belittled, and I didn't deserve it. I was a child learning how to be a human, and I couldn't regulate my own emotions. And that those first 8 years are so important to our development as kids. Those first 8 years, our brains do not know the difference between what's real and what's not. That's why I never tell someone, don't take it personally. Don't tell people that. We can't tell our mind. It's not helpful. We can't tell our mind and our bodies how to feel. But we can choose how we're going to react towards that. Are we going to tell her, hey, that wasn't real. That wasn't real. Was it real? Was it real? I'm okay. Let's fill it out. So take care of yourself. That is the best way to support you and to support everyone in this little community that we have. It's actually bigger than what we think it is.
I think you said it perfectly. Choosing yourself is a bold act. Anything else you want to leave people with? Anything?
You are not bad. You are good. You are not bad. You are good. You are not bad. You are good. That's it. No one can take that from you.
I got goosebumps again. I wasn't planning on feelings today. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Feelings clocked out a long time.
Do you know how much I cry now? Do you know how much I cry? I cry so often now. So often.
I love it. I can't, but I only started crying probably like in the past few years. Probably about like past 3-4 years, maybe 3 years. Actually, I've probably been crying, and I'm like, wow, this feels like good.
Floodgates. Yeah. Look at us now.
Look
bad
at us, bitches.
We should get that on a t-shirt.
I think so.
I'm not bad. I'm good. I'm a bad bitch.
Yeah. I'm a good bad bitch.
We'll fine-tune it. We'll fine-tune it before we put it out for sale. Yeah. I appreciate you being here so much. You are, seriously, I think you're a phenomenal human.
Thank you.
I appreciate your words of wisdom. I think you've provided a lot of insight and guidance for a lot of people who've been there, who are still currently there, or at the very least, I think it's just important for you to have a place to share your story and to be validated, because your experience was real and it's valid, and your pain and your anger and everything within that is real and valid. Whoever it impacts after that is the gravy on top, as we say in the South. If you or someone you know is struggling, I have included resources in the show notes. Your experience and your life and your voice matter. No matter who you are or how you grew up, you deserve to be heard and to feel safe in the life that you're living. Hit subscribe to see more weekly episodes, and dropping a comment really helps the algorithm. Side note, I know we're pretty much done, but I could never eat boudin when I lived in Louisiana. It just like, it's, first of all,
you saying
the shape. It's a very, what's the word?
Phallic?
Phallic-y.
Yeah.
But more than that, it's the grains in it. I have like this weird aversion to
rice
like, patterns like that.
Oh, because it looks like maggots.
I can't even explain.
I'm most likely making a gumbo Thursday. I have a friend coming over or something.
Ooh, I bet you make a mead gumbo.
Oh, it's nasty.
Girl, if we're ever in the same city together, I will pay you to make some of that.
I'd do it for free.
Some cornbread.
Oh.
I think I met my match. Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
You want to do karate in the garage?
Yep.